the AI in Business podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the AI Business Group podcast. My name is Krishna Kamasetti. I'll be your host today. Here I have Professor Felipe Csaszar with Michigan Ross. Professor Csaszar, I hope you'd like to introduce yourself really quickly for our audience.
Hi, Krishna. Thank you so much for the invitation. I am Felipe Csaszar. I am a professor of strategy at the business school, and I am interested in decision making in organizations. And lately, the most interesting thing happening there is AI. So I think that AI will change how we make decisions in organizations. I'm very happy to chat with you about anything that you want to talk about.
Yeah, that's perfect because we're dealing a lot with AI solutions for many like local Ann Arbor clients, any solutions they may need, and this episode is focused mainly on strategy and AI. So my opening question is, you recently co-edited a special issue of Strategy Science titled Can AI Do Strategy? And it explores how AI and LLMs can augment or impact business strategy. What inspired you to focus on the intersection of AI and strategy?
Yes, so I've been studying, so since my PhD, I've been studying how organizations make strategic decisions. And some of these decisions are made by groups. And you have a group, different people in the group will have different opinions about what to do. And then there's a process of combining all of those opinions, a process that I call aggregation, that ends up making the choice finally about what decision the organization should. So people vote, for example, and the majority says, let's do that, and the firm will do that. That has been the traditional way of making decisions in strategy. They are important decisions, many people are involved in those decisions, and then somehow you need to aggregate the opinions of everybody into a final decision of the firm. And another part of the decision is how people think about the problem, how they represent the problem. Is this a problem about the employees? It's a problem with the product, with the market, and then how the experience that people have and the knowledge that they have and the tools that they have end up affecting the decisions that they make. So at the end of the day, all of strategic decision making was all about thinking about cognitive processes that happen at the level of the individual or the level of the group. And those cognitive processes are processes of searching for alternatives, representing the alternatives differently, and aggregating different opinions. And then with AI, the interesting thing is that AI can affect each one of these three processes. AI can help us to search for more alternatives. AI can represent problems in ways that it would be difficult for us to think of the problem in that other way. And AI can help us aggregate differently. For example, now you can include the opinion of different AI personas into your final decision. So when LLMs came, like a few years ago, in November 22, they became popular with ChatGPT. I started thinking, this is really important. This will really change how strategic decisions are made, because now AI can help us in each one of the processes that underlie decision making in strategy. So I think it's really core, and AI is really core for strategy.
That's a perfect segue to our next question. Actually, in November 2024, you published research titled Artificial Intelligence and Strategic Decision Making, Evidence from Entrepreneurs and Investors. And this explores how AI supported strategy development during startup competitions and a startup accelerator program. And you focused on how it augmented existing SDM tools like Porter's Five Forces. So how do you think this augmentation will apply to large established companies that may use AI when they're making business decisions in the future?
Yes. So I think this will apply to all firms, small firms, large firms, new firms, old firms, because these cognitive processes happen in all these places. So, yes, for example, in that study that you mentioned, what we do is we ask AI to solve some business problems. So we have a business plan competition where people apply to the business plan competition and they have to fill out a form. So this is a real business plan competition. And the first part of the form is what's the problem that you're trying to solve with this new startup?
Yeah.
And then we gave just that paragraph to the AI, and we asked AI to complete all of the rest of the form with the rest of the business plan. And then we put the real business plans and the AI generated business plans into a competition, into a business plan competition. And then we saw which one ended up higher. And in our study, the AI business plans ended up ranking on average a little bit higher, 7% higher than the human generated plans. So this preliminary evidence that you can ask an AI to generate solutions to business problems. Of course, we tested this with this specific business plan competition, but essentially strategy is about solving problems. So you could imagine in a large firm, there are other problems different from the problems of a startup, but you could ask an AI to come up with solutions to that. It's for another study to understand really how, if AI will be better or not. And it's not that easy because it's not just asking directly to ChatGPT what to do. There are different ways of doing this. There are different AIs. There are different ways of prompting. There are different ways of combining opinions of multiple AIs. So I think we need to do a lot of research to understand what is the best way to extract the most value, the best answers out of LLMs.
Yeah, so actually wanted to follow up on this. So I think you talked about how in AI, it's not limited. Normal humans, we have cognitive limits, right? But AI can consider so many more scenarios. So if I do use an AI agent to try out or model business decisions, how, what's the difference in the choices it will make compared to how a human would make?
Yeah, yeah. So humans, we have some limits in how we can think. So for example, there's a very famous one, and it's about our short-term memory. There was a paper in the 50s called the magical number 7, because it showed that people on average can remember in their short-term memory up to 7 different things, 7 plus minus 2. And that's why, for example, in the frameworks that people use in strategy, there's a limited number of things that get considered. So there's this very famous framework called the Porter's 5 forces.
Yeah.
Why is 5? I think that an important part of why is 5 is because humans have to run that framework.
Yeah.
And the framework needs to fit in the mind of humans. And we have this limit, so of 7 plus minus 2. So, but an AI doesn't have that limit.
Yeah.
An AI can consider more things at the same time. So, in theory, one could imagine that an AI could deal with much more complex frameworks than the frameworks that we human use. So maybe Porter's 50 forces. I don't know. But it's something for future studies to determine what's the optimal complexity of those models that AIs can run. There will be an optimal. It's not a million. Because when you consider too many things, you are overfitting to your past observations and it generalizes poorly to future situations. But maybe it's more than 5. So that's one limit.
Yeah.
How many things you can consider at the same time. Another one for humans is you imagine things sequentially. So you consider, let's say, three alternatives, because analyzing each one of the alternatives takes time. So you go first one, second one, third one, and in each one you spend an hour talking about all of this. But an AI could consider many more alternatives than three. So it's not just dimensions, number of things that you can consider, but also number of alternatives that you can take into account.
Yeah.
So probably an AI could search for alternatives that are much more distant than what we could consider, that there are many more alternatives than what we could consider.
Yeah, so I just want to add on to this. So as we progress into the future and we see companies using AI to help develop their strategy, do you see a future where these AIs potentially compete with other AIs while making strategy, and then these existing STM
Yes.
tools become obsolete? And will we need like new approaches for this new AI v AI strategy?
Yeah. So, yeah, I can imagine that future. I think we're still far from that future. There are many things that need to happen before. But so in general, I think that changes like this, when there's a new technology, it takes several decades for for the changes really to happen. So maybe here we are talking about a very distant future where you have different AIs making strategic decisions, and there's a competition among them. And of course, some AIs will be better than others. Some AIs will have better models than others. Some AIs will have access to better data than others. Some AIs will be faster than others. So there will be a competition for who has the best models in strategy, of course. Similarly to what happens today, that there's a competition for who has the best CEO, for example,
Yeah.
or who has the best consulting company, or which consulting company is using the best process to try to solve the problem. The same thing will happen with AIs.
So it's like
Yeah.
it's a very powerful tool for strategy. I like the metaphor I'm thinking of right off the bat is like if you're like Formula One race cars, who has the fastest car, same like that, who has the best model that can make the best strategy. That's really cool to see. And I just want to ask about a recent LinkedIn post you made where you talked about your chapter in an upcoming book on strategy titled Unbounding Rationality: Why AI is a Fundamental Issue for Strategy. And very similar to the previous question, you mentioned how AI integration is key, having the best model. So, how should a company integrate, like orchestrate and interact with AI systems to maintain a competitive advantage when it comes to strategy?
I think that today we are at the beginning of this. There's not a lot that we know. So it's really important for firms to experiment. And essentially everybody in the firm should be experimenting on how to use AI. So we are not at a point where we can tell you this is exactly what you should be doing. No, probably firms have to discover there's a bunch of things that are possible, but that no one has discovered those things yet. So the firms that will win will be the firms that will have better vision to discover those things that are possible, and the firms that are faster at moving, at getting, at implementing those ideas. So vision and speed. And how do you achieve that? Well, you want to have people with vision, and you want all of them to be trying things. And once you find something that's promising, you want to try it out. So you want to have experiments. And the experiments that work, then those you scale. So everybody should, I think the firms that will have an advantage will be those firms that can see farther than others. And that has to do with empowering everybody in the organization to run these experiments and to think how to combine what they are doing today with the capabilities of the new technology. So learning about the new technology, what you can do, how you can combine it, having conversations inside organizations about that, that's the most important today.
So the company that experiments, tries to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks and, just refine that further. That's the company that will gain the competitive advantage in the future when it comes to AI.
I think so, particularly at this point in history, when the frontier of what's possible has moved, and there are many opportunities that are out there that no one yet has seen. So there's an example I really like, is from 2005. So in 2005, a 19-year-old created a website called the $1 Million Homepage. And what's this thing? He said, I want to make $1 million. So I will create an image that has 1,000,000 pixels. So it's a square, 1,000 pixels times 1,000 pixels. So a million pixels. And said, I'm going to sell each pixel for $1. It's sort of a crazy idea. Who's going to
Yeah.
buy one pixel in a website that no one knows? But the thing is that the idea is so crazy that all the newspapers of the time talked about it. And then everybody visited the site. And then companies realized that this was a very cheap way of advertising their brands. So many companies tried to buy pixels. This 19-year-old sold all of the pixels very quickly, in about 2 weeks. And he made his $1 million. So the thing is, for me, the lesson from this is that business model is the simplest possible business model that's based on the internet. There's nothing simpler than that. But that was invented in 2005. It could have been invented in the late 90s. Everything was the same. Screens were the same size. There was internet advertising. The internet was fast enough to deliver this image. But none of the millions of internet entrepreneurs discovered that business model until 2005. So now that, again, the frontier of what's possible has moved, there must be thousands of models like this that are out there waiting for someone to discover those.
As we're approaching the end of the podcast, I just have a couple of closing questions for you. So, looking back at your entrepreneurial experience now through the lens of your AI research, what would you have done differently if you had access to the AI capabilities of today?
Interesting. So there's some pragmatic things, like, of course, it could have helped speeding up, for example, creating the business plan, making sure it looks perfect, the communication with the venture capital firms, etc. Those simple things where AI is very good. It's very good at writing today. For sure, it could have helped there. Would have helped with creating prototypes, like creating first version of the website and imagining different ways of organizing it. So AI too is very good at coding and at creating prototypes. Of course, it could have helped the programmers working in the firm at getting to market even faster, because coding now can be done much faster. Back then, I recall that, hey, we had to find some books or talk to some people that had some strange knowledge about how to program things. Now, all that is much faster. You can just ask an LLM and have a quite very good answer. And I think also it would have helped me. I was the CEO. So I was in charge of raising money and talking to investors. So maybe preparing those meetings, like imagining the type of questions that I could get, thinking more, like um, bouncing ideas or thinking about questions that are likely to come and preparing better for those. Those are the things that come to mind now.
Yeah, hearing about these, I just can't help but think I think AI has a huge potential to democratize, starting a business because so many just resource intensive processes that would have, took a lot of resources back then. Now it feels like you can just have an AI agent, like you can use Claude Code to code a website or a web page, or you can use AI to develop strategy. I just think that's very interesting and it has a potential to impact the business landscape.
Yeah, I think that AI is empowering entrepreneurs and small companies to a large degree. So I imagine there will be many more entrepreneurs. There's also something that many people are studying today is how to train entrepreneurs to become better entrepreneurs using AI. Because the AI can take the role of a mentor. So maybe we could educate entrepreneurs so that the level of entrepreneurship all around the world improves. So I think there's a lot of potential.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue into my last question. So personally, as a part of the AI business group, I really enjoy learning about AI in business and through this podcast about strategy. What advice would you give to students and future entrepreneurs who want to succeed in this field?
So I think if you're in technology entrepreneurship, learning is at the center of that. You need to be at the forefront of what's going on. You need to know the latest technology and be thinking about business uses of that. So learn everything that's available, keep up to date, and use your imagination to connect that new knowledge with problems that you know. So how do you learn about problems? Talk to people,
Mm.
talk to businesses, see where are their needs. Work for different businesses. I think breadth is important also. You want to know about the problems and the perspectives of many different people. So know about technology, know about problems, think about how to combine those, and for sure from that combination you will come up with a lot of good ideas.
All right, that's the end of the podcast. Thank you, Professor Shazar, for coming on. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot personally, and thank you everyone for watching.
Well,
Bye-bye.
thank you so much. Great talking with you.